This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Perhaps would get a good deal, eh? So it is a country that is rich of diamonds, gold, bauxite, rutile, which is what would you call it? Titanium, or coffee and cocoa. So if you're a lover of chocolate, perhaps a bit of Sierra Leone. If you bought diamond at some point, maybe it came from Sierra Leone as well. But from this great country, we have the proverb: a single bracelet does not jingle. How would you interpret that?
A single bracelet does not jingle. I guess for me, what comes to mind is you can't do it alone. You've got to form a team. You've got to work with others if you want to jingle. Otherwise, there's no noise, no results.
Yeah.
That's how I would interpret it.
How would you interpret it?
Yeah, it makes me feel sad, right? If a single bracelet's there on its own, right? There's no joy, there's no effervescence in that. So yeah, I think if you're together with people that you can jingle with, that's the point of life.
Yeah,
Indeed.
Well said, well put.
Absolutely. The Sierra Leoneans would be proud.
Yeah, they bring wisdom too, not just those other things, huh?
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you for being here. We're looking into Boost Africa, of course, this morning, but then also looking at the bigger picture in terms of what happens with business across the continent and how the initiative between the European Investment Bank and the African Development Bank, supported by the European Union, are then making it easier, a little bit more comfortable for businesses to do business. So let's begin with Africa Invest. Tell us briefly about Africa Invest, what you do, and how you're working with the Boost Africa program.
Okay, so thanks for having me. My name is George, as you mentioned. I work with Africa Invest, been with the firm for now 17 years. I'm one of the senior partners and a member of the executive committee. Africa Invest is probably one of the more established private equity, venture capital, private capital groups in the continent. Majority owned by Africans, started in Tunisia back in 1994, so 31 years old. We're involved in private equity, venture capital, private credit. We've raised probably about $2.7 billion since we started. Initially, a lot of the funds we raised were smaller funds. We did what is referred to as small investments, $1 million, $5 million. Today, our flagship business, we invest between $30 to $50 million a ticket. Those are in mature businesses. And we get our money from development financial institutions such as the EIB, African Development Bank, IFC of the World Bank, FMO, the Dutch, DG, the Germans. But what's exciting, Ndu and Dennis, is we've seen a change. We're seeing African money coming into this alternative asset space. So we're seeing pension funds investing in this. We're seeing asset managers from Africa, insurance companies, banks, which is exciting because you don't only want, while you encourage foreign investment, you want local money to fund your local economies. So we've been doing this for a while. Some of the investments we've invested in, which you may be familiar with, we are a significant shareholder in Britam Insurance, largest single shareholder there today. We are one of the largest, actually second largest shareholder in Prime Bank, second largest shareholder in I&M Bank. We were the largest shareholder in Brookhouse International School back in the day. We were investors in Family Bank. We are second largest investor in Auto Express. So we invest in African businesses, and typically they're regional businesses which may start from Kenya or may start from Uganda or may start from other countries, Tanzania, but have a regional footprint. And so we create jobs. We give access to capital to these businesses. We help them with their governance and help them grow. And that's what we do for a living. The team consists of about 110 people. So we're the largest team in the continent in this space. So not only the most established, but the largest. Head office is in Tunis, where we have an office in Casablanca, Algiers, Cairo. So strong presence in North Africa. We have an office in Lagos, Nigeria. Lagos takes care of our Anglophone West Africa business. And then we have an office in Abidjan that takes care of our Francophone West Africa business. And then coming to the side of the continent, we have an office in Nairobi. The Nairobi office looks after Eastern and Southern Africa for now. Later on, probably next year or the year after, we'll set up in South Africa as well.
Okay.
We've done over 230 transactions since we started in the continent. We've done what we call 130 plus exits or realizations, where you invest in a company like a Turaco, and then you sell your stake and you remit the proceeds back to your investors. And we've invested in over 30 African countries. So yeah, we can claim that we have a sense of what works in Africa and what doesn't work. Yeah. And across different businesses, it's health sector, education sector, banking, insurance, etc. But I think what's interesting and what's exciting is the Boost Africa program. It enables investors like us to work with companies that would ordinarily not feature because they're high risk. They're early stage startup. So Boost Africa program by EIB was one of the big investors in our fund. And apart from giving us commercial capital to invest in the fund, they also gave us what we call technical assistance grants to help us train and get the businesses investment ready.
Yep. So there is Turaco as well that is in there now, and one would want to look at who is Turaco, what inspired Turaco to set up, and how then does Turaco work together, connect with African investment to see that everything happens in a cohesive manner. So Turaco, who's Turaco, what inspired you, and how do you then connect with African investment?
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Ted Pantone. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Turaco. And Turaco is a micro-insurance company focusing on insuring the next billion people on the planet. That's what we're set out to do. That's our vision. We're about 5 million people in insurance products too. So micro medical, micro funeral, micro life across currently 6 markets in Africa. So Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana, and we've just expanded into Tanzania and Zambia as well. And what we do is we sell insurance that people want to buy, right? So when I first got started with this business, the big question was, do mass market, low-income people across the continent want to buy insurance, right? Do they want to use their very limited resources to pay for an insurance product? My response to that overwhelmingly now is yes. When we sell our products and we call people up on the phone and say, hi, do you want to buy insurance from Turaco? We get 30, 40, 50% of people saying yes. So as of today, we're insuring 1 out of every 40 Kenyans. That's a huge portion of this population, and we're very proud of that. And yeah, what we've built is a technology company to sell insurance, to sell and then manage insurance policies. I was just joking with George, who's invested in lots of insurance companies, that when you look at Kenya, there's too many insurance companies and not enough insurance. Right? You were just advertising for one of them. The problem is not, is there insurance available? It's, are the right insurance products available, and are they easy for people to buy? Right? When you talk to people in the village, right? My first home in Kenya was in Busia. When I talk to my friends in Busia, they don't know that they can buy insurance, right? It's not something that is easy for them to approach. They think it's a product for the rich, that you have to have a government job or an NGO job or work for a big corporate to be able to have insurance. We're trying to change that. We're trying to make it so that every farmer, every shopkeeper, every boater driver can have an insurance policy.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so we sell it through partnerships. So we work with some of the largest brands on the continent. So in Kenya, we partner with M-Kopa, which is actually a new investment for the Africa Invest Group. Yeah. They, you probably know their brand, but they manufacture and distribute smartphones on financing. And when you buy some of their smartphones, you actually have Turaco's medical insurance as a part of that purchase. So you're buying more than a phone. You're buying a phone, and you're also getting medical insurance. You're also getting device insurance, access to other loans. So we partner with them. We partner with Safaricom through M-Pesa. So you can go to M-Pesa's USSD and buy our insurance directly from them. That's a very new product that hasn't actually been very well advertised yet, but we have our first 100,000 people on that product. And we work with a number of microfinance banks to embed our insurance into loans that people are already buying. The key for insurance is you want to get people to be able to make a rational, not an emotional purchasing decision, right? When you think about, do I want to protect my family? The answer is always yes. When you think about, do I want to reach into my pocket and pay to protect my family today? The answer is sometimes no.
Especially when your pocket is empty.
Exactly. So what we've built is a way for people to be able to make that decision once and then have the money automatically deducted from a savings account or automatically added to a loan product so that they don't have to keep making that hard decision to pay for it, but they know that their family's protected. So they have the benefit of the peace of mind, which is the primary benefit of insurance, is that you can sleep better at night, you can take more risks in your life, but they don't have to think about paying for it every time the bill comes due.
Okay. So George, as we look at the landscape of Africa, that the most recorded and reported issue when it comes to small businesses as a challenge is access to credit. It's access to the funds to set up business in a way that will be impactful on economies. So you can set up anything. You can set up a little shop and sell gum. Doesn't really bear any kind of impact. So for impactful business that will impact the setter of the business as well as the consumer of the product or service, that the biggest challenge towards that is access to credit. Have you then been able to progress on that particular issue?
Yeah, so thanks for that question, Du. Number of different solutions, but the ones that come to mind immediately are you've got to set the right product. And it's similar to what Ted said about insurance. With investments, you've also got to have the right product. When I was meeting, I met somebody just before I walked in. And the first thing, when I told him what I did, he said, can I get access to finance? So you are right, it is a real problem. So the question is, do you go to a bank? Do you go to a venture capital company, a fund of company? Do you go to a private equity? And is private equity, is it SME? Is it mid cap? Is it large cap? So there are different types of money out there. So having those different products helps. And this is one thing we've been able to do as Africa Invest. When we started off, we started as a private equity group. Today, we describe ourselves as an investment platform because in this platform, we have different products. And depending on the need, we are able to basically offer a different product to address that need. So the right product is one answer. The other answer, because access to finance is almost not just the real problem. The real problem, if you unpeel it, it's actually how do you, once you get the finance, how do you then invest it? How do you make sure that you've got the right governance structures around it? How do you make sure that you don't borrow money and blow it in the wrong things? So having that governance structure and having that financial literacy, the training is important. We also help with that, and this is where the Boost Africa program also comes to play, because they have access to technical assistance grants, which allows us to train the entrepreneurs. So they don't just get money, they also get money and get training on how to use that money, how to deploy that capital. And so that makes a difference, how to set up a governance structure. Those are some of the solutions that we come up with. So right product and then the right environment, the training also makes a difference.
Yeah, you see, as you talk about still access to finance, it's a problem, we agree. But then again, there are others who are willing to come in, hold your hand, and show you the right ways of going through. So from a perspective of Turaco now, let's enter Boost Africa. How has that assistance by Boost Africa helped, especially startups, get it right when it comes to addressing the earlier on challenges that come up with starting a business, because it is a common denominator. It's usually not so easy, but with others who are willing to hold your hand, it's easier to navigate through and become a success.
Yeah, happy to share our experience. So we raised a Series A investment, which was co-led by the Africa Invest team back in 2022. And when we raised that money, I'm a founder, right? So I don't like spending the money. It's very hard to raise money, and so I try to hold on to it. Obviously, we need to make investments that are the right investments for the business. But there's always something. There's always something that I'm like on the edge. Should we do this thing with our team? Should I invest in this HR resource? Should I invest in this new piece of technology? So there's some things that are always on the periphery of what I think are core to our business. That if I had an extra piece of investment, I might make the decision to say yes to that. So we actually, one of those specific circumstances came up when I was talking to one of our board members who was from Africa Invest, and they said, hey, we actually have a facility from Boost Africa, from European Investment Bank, that we can use to pay for that so that it doesn't have to come out of the investment that you just blood, sweat, and tears raised. So we made an application for some capital from Boost Africa, and they deployed it to us. And what it enabled us to do, very specifically, we hired a coach to help support myself and a few of our other leaders to just upskill us, right? The difference between running a business with 15 people that's growing a little bit each month and running a business with 150 people that's growing 2x year on year is a very different job, and the team that you need around you to do that are very different teams. So I wanted to upskill my people, I wanted to upskill myself to be able to do that, and we got to do that through the Boost Africa program. So I'm deeply grateful. We actually now make all those investments directly from Turaco's own investment capital, but I wouldn't have believed in it as much had I not had the grant capital to be able to do that.
How have we seen that businesses have been impacted that have started, and really, what kind of businesses have, applied for and been given the funds they need to either start up or to carry on?
So we have 15, there are about 15 companies in our investment fund. So, I think Boost Africa, if I recall correctly, supported 6 managers such as ourselves to set up funds. So in our fund, we have 15 companies. To invest in those 15 companies, we looked at more than 1,000 companies. So how many came for the interview? How many did we look at? How many did we vet? Over 1,000 to then invest in 15. Are all those 15 going to be winners? No. In fact, there will be some dogs in that pack. And we have already probably written off a couple of them. And then that's the nature of the business. In venture capital, they say 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 will succeed. Obviously, Turaco is going to be one of the ones to succeed, given all the signs we've seen so far.
Yeah.
But you get some right, you get some wrong. How many do we talk to? Quite a number, and it's the nature of the beast. That's what we have to do to find the successful businesses. And sometimes it's not as obvious. And the other thing that's also important to understand is we invest in companies which may not be profitable, but we invest in companies that have revenue. So we don't invest in pre-revenue businesses. Some businesses come and say, I've got this great idea. And we listen and we encourage them and we tell them that's not for us. We refer them to who does that. We invest in businesses that are already generating revenue, look like they have a trajectory towards profitability. So they seem to have got their model right. And they just need help, whether it's in governance and some support on management. That's where we can come in, and we leverage our network. Having invested in more than 200 companies, we have a huge network.
What kind of revenue are we talking about here? If you're saying that a business is already generating some kind of revenue, what are we talking about here?
I'll tell you. So there is a business in the music space. They're probably doing revenues of. They started when we invested. They were probably doing $200,000. They're probably at about $1 million today. There are others which could be over $10 million. So it's anything. It can be 500,000, it can be $1 million, it can be maybe a little less, but it's demonstrated the model works and they're generating revenue. And it's a wide array. It's in the health tech space. Tech because you're able to leverage tech to get to the low income, such as what Turaco's doing. It's in the edu-tech space, so education businesses, again, that are leveraging on technology, whether it's coding, whether it's working with cell phones and smartphones. It's also in the fintech space, so it's a lot of tech. Our fund tends to be a tech-focused fund.
Okay,
that's our bias.
So it's got to be somebody who is not. You're not looking at somebody's potential here. It's somebody who's already demonstrated that potential and is already reaping some kind of benefit. If what I'm hearing is correct.
No, slightly different. I mean, you have a point, but let me just expound on it.
$200,000 is quite something, though.
No. Yeah. So that's just that's a revenue. You're generating revenue, but you're not making any profits.
Okay.
You're not yet profitable.
All right.
And so what we try to avoid is somebody has a great idea, but they haven't tested that idea. We want to make sure that the model has been tested and the model appears to be working. So it's revenue generating. It's not yet profitable, but it's revenue generating. We'll look at that. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I can share us as an example of the impact, right? So when Africa Invest, and actually when Boost Africa invested in Turaco, we had 100,000 customers, right? Today we have 4 million customers, 4.5 million almost across the continent. So that impact is entirely because of the investment that we received and the investment that Boost Africa made in our business.
Okay, so what helps folks is to then be able to understand that if there were 100,000 customers, for example, and this much needed revenue came in, or rather this much needed funding came in, what then did it allow Turaco to do that would then get you to 5 million? Because folks are thinking, okay, I have this fintech generating revenue. What will then I then be able to ask for or to apply for that would allow me to get to the point of impactful and then beyond revenue generation? So what did you do?
Yeah, so you need investment to be able to grow, right? You need to hire a team. You need to build technology. For us, we needed to build technology.
Okay.
And we couldn't have done that without investment. So we raised that investment. We built an amazing piece of technology to enable us to process a claim for 50 cents, right? Whereas most insurance companies are spending $50 to process a claim, right? That type of a thing. And enable us to onboard customers entirely digitally from end to end, right? So if you hadn't invested in the technology, there's no way for us to serve low-income consumers who are not able to pay more than 50 cents to $1 a month for insurance policies.
So you could make a case whereby it said, okay, fine. And I'm going to stick on this because it's for the benefit of folks who want to understand. You can make a case and say, yes, I do have 100,000 clients who are tapping into my system, health tech, for example, right? But in order to get more people on, I need to make it more... I need to scale it up. I need to make it more user-friendly. I need to then be able to have somebody on their phone, then, either use a USSD code or something to get into my system. In order to do that, I build the technology. And you can make a case, right? Is that then, George, what you'd be looking for and say, actually, yes, we can see this come to life. We can see that they could get from 100,000 to 5 million in 5 years, give or take, if they had this technology?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it even goes further, Ndo, because remember, if you take a step back, what problem is Turaco trying to solve? It's a problem of access to insurance. It's a risk tool. If something were to happen to the main breadwinner, they are able to continue to move, to live. Very often, it just takes one severe medical case to wipe out the savings of a family.
Sure.
So that's what Turaco is trying to resolve. It's an insurance issue. And if you look at what in Kenya, the IRA, Insurance Regulatory Authority, has done very well, is to encourage microinsurance. In fact, there is a separate insurance regime for microinsurance. Whereas microinsurance before sat under the license of regular insurers, there's recognition that it's actually a tougher business, a different business. So very much the same way M-Pesa enabled us to get to the underserved, microinsurance will also enable us to get among underserved. So the problem is lack of insurance to the underserved. The one solution is to use technology to reduce the cost of service delivery, to increase the distribution. So that's the case they make. But what do we look for in terms of impact? It's number of users, because those are people who are benefiting, people whose lives will not be disrupted. We also look for increased income. And there will be increased income when you don't have to take your savings and put them on medical emergency. We also look for, so the different indicators, the typical, we look for gender parity and diversity. Those are things we look for, and those are stories we want to hear, because that's what ensures sustainability of the business. So it's not just something that's relevant for big companies, but also for small companies.
We're talking about tech and innovation, and one would say in a lot of startups nowadays, tech is just one way that everybody has to get into. And as we talk about Turaco now, here's a question where, as a company that is trying to solve a problem that is insurance penetration and uptake in the country, because we're still talking about 3%, right? And you want to get to everybody. But remember, we're also dealing with a population that is tech savvy, because 70% of the Kenyan population are the young people. So then investing into technology and innovation becomes paramount and must do. So with Boost Africa coming on board, what are the impacts that we're seeing, and how has this investment helped solve that problem that is access? Because we want everyone to come there, but not 3 million people will come to your office. Then your office becomes this piece of technology?
Yeah, it's a great question. If you're not building technology, you can't serve the majority of people in these markets with an insurance policy. It's really interesting. So every insurance company in Kenya is talking about all of their investments into technology and all the things that they're doing. Really, they're working with a separate company that's a technology company, and they're kind of bringing them in-house and using them that way. We're the first company to do both ourselves, right? So we're a fully licensed insurance company from the IRA to do microinsurance, which we're very grateful for from the Kenyan government. And then we're also an amazing technology company. So because all of that is together, there's not two people that need to eat from that cake, right? We're just eating by ourselves. And so we're able to get much better products delivered much more efficiently and much more cost effectively to the people that want to buy them, right? As you say, if 3 million Kenyans show up at my office door, we have a problem. Our office is located centrally. You can come if you want. You're always welcome. But people don't want to do that, right? People want to be able to interact with you digitally. They want to be able to WhatsApp your company and get a response very, very quickly. And so that's what we've built at Turaco, and that's what the investment that we received enabled us to build.
You know what's interesting, if you allow me to interject. Turaco has managed to get 5 million customers in 5 years?
Yeah, since we started about 7 years ago.
Yeah. If you look at the number of insured folks in the country, in Kenya, it's amazing. What you guys are doing at Turaco, that kind of growth is not seen in any insurance company. And I tease some of my colleagues in the insurance industry because I know the numbers and I see the numbers. And I say to them, the cheese is moving. If you don't do something, if you don't invest in technology, the Turacos of this world are going to take over the space. They're the disruptors. And so getting insurance to the underserved, solving this 3% penetration rate, getting it to double digit like South Africa, that's where we have to head. And it's going to be technology that will get us there.
Yeah. Our median turnaround time on a claim is 4 hours. Right. Many insurance companies are taking weeks. Most are taking weeks, days to turn around a claim. We can do it in 4 hours. My goal for our team internally is 30 minutes, right? So we want to get to a point where majority of claims are actually being processed nearly instantly. And then for some claims
how long does Lemonade take?
It's some of their claims are instant.
Yeah.
Some of their claims take about an hour.
Yeah.
I think
you're saying lemonade the drink. I was going to say, well, you have to squeeze a lemon and add some water.
It's a nice name. It's a nice name for an insurance company,
great.
right? It's a little bit bitter, a little bit sweet.
Indeed.
So it's a U.S. insurance company that we've learned a lot from, and we're trying to bring those lessons into this market.
This is interesting because I think you may not like the next question, but then you're essentially doing something, of course, with this help, and I think that's a disruptor in the sense that that's what private business does, that it disrupts the status quo, first of all, that this thing that looks so monstrous and that's so difficult can actually be done with a little bit of attention and apply, some elbow grease plus, the much needed funding, but then also the integrity to then be able to do it and do it right. So then, is this a model that then can be replicated in government, George? And then we know that, of course, this is private business, but it clearly is answering questions that governments for years have been unable to answer.
No, I mean, you're asking the right question. Do uncomfortable is the right question. What is it government is supposed to do? Government is supposed to be responsible for social services like education, like health, housing, shelter over your head, the basic human rights. The thing is, governments haven't done that too well, and governments have limited resources. That's why private businesses come into education, come into health services, etc., etc. One of the conversations we had with Ted when we were waiting to come in was, how does Turaco work with SHA and SHIF? Because that's important. And maybe I shouldn't steal your thunder. You should respond to that.
Yeah, happy to. So it's interesting. SHA and SHIF, like Kenya's national health scheme, is the best in the continent, the best in sub-Saharan Africa, right? I can say that.
On paper or in practice?
In both. Okay. Right. So you, as Kenyans, we should feel very blessed. We have some of the best that's out there. There's still gaps, right? So there's still a lot of people that aren't covered under that scheme. What we built at Turaco is it's a product that tries to be complementary to the national scheme. So you can claim from SHA, you can also claim from Turaco on the same, and it works as like income replacement in some instances, right? If you've been hospitalized for a few nights, you get some paysa to be able to deal with other bills that you have. But I just want to hear you, like, Kenyans always have something to complain about, just like everyone in the world.
Absolutely. Why not? What would the world be without it?
I wish the shop was better, but it's actually pretty great. If I was designing that scheme myself, right, for delivering that product, I would probably charge 2-3x what Kenya charges the majority of people that receive it, because it's actually very expensive to deliver that product efficiently in the ways that it's delivered. So I'm on record saying that now.
Yeah.
There are still lots of gaps.
Yeah.
There's lots of unhappy customers, and I think that's going to be the case forever. So I think that we need to continue to invest as
So
a
how do
country.
you work with them, though? How do you work with Shah and Chef?
So we don't have a direct relationship with
Okay.
them. We work ancillary, right? So we work on the out. And then you can send us those same documents, and if you have a Turaco policy, we'll pay you as well.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking at what we've just discussed here is a point where everybody comes together for a common good. I want us to talk about collaboration, and I want to look at how now Turaco is working with Boost Africa. There is Shah and others who are coming together to solve a problem. Just how critical is it for collaboration to be a mainstay in business, especially for startups? Because at the end of the day, we all want to win. But like you've said, a single bracelet will never jingle. How critical is it then?
Yeah, fantastic. I like that you've brought it back to the bracelets. You're absolutely right. And even as Ndu asked the question and I, passed on the baton to Ted, I was thinking about it. We could do better with collaboration for sure. Is this something the government could learn about using technology to get healthcare to the underserved? Absolutely. E-Citizen, with all its issues, has been proof that you can digitize a lot of services. The question is, how can we learn from that and learn from the private sector and deliver health services to the underserved? And it's doable. Could we collaborate more? Absolutely. Should we be talking to each other more? We could probably do it better. We tend to keep our conversations very siloed, whether it's in an industry. Sometimes we talk to each other and it's an echo chamber. Sometimes we talk across, whether it's through a private sector alliance or through some of these conferences. But yeah, I think we definitely will take that challenge, Dennis. We need to find a way to bring regulators on the table, bring other players on the table, bring government on the table. That conversation needs to happen, because we're talking about 75% of the youth who are getting restless, and for right reasons. They don't have jobs, they don't have services, and
Can't start business.
Yeah, and they don't have capital to start business, and if we who are in places of privilege are not able to resolve that, then honestly, we're irrelevant.
I'm a bit of a capitalist, right? So
Just a little.
I believe in the market. I believe in the free market. I believe that the biggest collaboration that we can make as people with influence and power is to let people live their lives, right? To get out of their way, to make sure they have the basic tools and infrastructure that they need to be successful, but then to let them innovate and collaborate in the ways that make sense for them, right? Turaco doesn't exist because somebody got together in a room with a bunch of smart people and said, let's create a business to solve medical insurance. Turaco exists because a few people that wanted to build a business said, what should we do that is interesting, that is a product that people want to buy, that solves a real problem. And I think if you look at, Kenya is incredibly entrepreneurial. If you look at all the entrepreneurs building businesses, right, these are the people that are going to build our economy. So I think we need to stay out of their way and let them build.
So, did Turaco pay you back?
Actually,
Or how does that work?
yes, how it works,
Yes.
it's actually an equity investment.
Okay.
So we take an equity investment, we put money into the company, we take an equity risk. If the company tanks, we all lose. If the company gains, we all gain.
Okay.
And right now, the company continues to grow in value. Our expectation is that we will make a big gain when we sell our stake ultimately. And what happens when that gain comes, we will return the money to the investors, but we'll also keep some of it, because we always invest alongside our investors. We put our money where our mouth is when we set
Yes.
up these funds. So EIB, Boost Africa, they invested in the fund, will get their money back plus. And if you look at the track record of previous investments, because EIB has been supporting Africa Invest for a long time, they will get a return on their investments like they have on all the other investments.
Sure.
But where they will not get a return on cash is the money they've used for technical assistance support, the grants. But what they will get there is impact. They'll be able to show how many new lives have come in and are insured through Turaco. They'll be able to show how many other people have access to fintech for some of the other investments we've done in the fintech. There's a ride-hailing app in Francophone West Africa, equivalent of Uber in Francophone West Africa. It's called Hish. They'll be able to see how many women drivers have now got a livelihood because it's employing a lot of women drivers and creating a lot of jobs. They'll be able to see that sort of impact because the technical assistance just boosts the business, if you like. That's how it works.
Okay.
I think if they were to sell their shares today, they would be very happy.
They would be happy with what they get from Turaco.
I'm trying to be more
By God's grace. By God's grace, they would be very happy.
So it's like Shark Tank on steroids.
There you
essentially.
go. I'm not sure steroids, but yeah. The thing with venture capital is, like I said, you could invest in 10 companies, 15 companies. You're going to lose 10 of them.
But you're ready to do that.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
Okay.
My day job, I'm actually in private equity, not in venture capital. I've got other colleagues who have stronger hearts than me who do the venture capital stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if I lost that many companies, I'd be looking for the tallest building to jump off, you know?
No, come on.
No. You know, on a light note.
Yeah.
So I want to look at, we have those in the continent who have an idea. I want to make it, and I want to make it big. I want to make money in this continent. But there is the challenge of where do I get funding?
Where do you
know,
go?
so there is the question of where do I go to? How do I start? How do I make it be a reality? So what would be the message? Turaco started from somewhere, had a dream, implemented it. A few guys in a room. Here we are today talking about if they sell their shares, they're happy. How would a young person, an entrepreneur today, listening to you speak, say, I want to be like Ted?
Yeah, it's a great question. First, be yourself. Don't be like me. But we're at such an interesting moment in history when it comes to building technology companies. My background is not in technology, right? My last business was a Pizza Hut franchise, right? So I've done a lot of different things on the continent in the 16, 17 years that I've lived here. But you can build a technology company today without needing to know how to write code, right? You can vibe code. You can work with these learning algorithms using AI. So I would say to those founders or those potential founders that are looking at a problem, if you have a real problem, if you're like, this is something that I know somebody wants to buy a product here, right? That's how I felt for insurance, right? I was like, I know my friends in Busia, they eat risk for breakfast, right? They know all the risks in their lives. They know someone who's not been able to pay medical bills and lost somebody, right? So I know that that's a problem that somebody is willing to pay money for. We just need to figure out how to design the right product and then distribute to them efficiently. So I would say find that problem that you really believe in, that resonates with you, and then do the research and just start building, right? The first step to building is talking to 10 people, right? You tell 10 people, this is a problem I see, what do you think? And if they all say yes, then you talk to 10 more people. And then from those 20 people, you're probably going to say, hey, you should actually do it this way, or you should do it that way. And then you start pivoting on the idea. When it comes to raising initial investment capital, these are the big boys, right? You can't talk to African Invest day one. You can talk to angel investors like myself or other people that have done well enough in business that are willing to deploy smaller amounts of capital to get you started. And then please don't everyone email me at once with that ask, but and then once you get enough traction, then you can start talking to the big boys and you can say, okay, I've proven this concept, right? I have some idea of product market fit, and now I need a big amount of investment to really build the technology the right way and to distribute the product effectively. And then you can apply or not apply, but pitch VCs to be able to invest in your business.
Let me just add to that, because what Ted is saying is spot on. If you come with an idea, it can't just be a good idea. You've got to be solving for a real problem. That's number one. Number two, you've got to put your own money. So, usually they say there's the first round. Where it's the sort of family and friends round. Or, as a friend of mine says, family and fools round. That's the one where, you take the early risk. Then you go and raise money for the pre-seed round. Then you go to the seed round. Then you go to the Series A. So there are lots of steps where you're raising for more money. Now, there are incubators and accelerators, some of them funded by folks like EIB, but also corporates are coming into the space. So one of the organizations I'm involved with is Britain. I sit on the board there, and they have set up an incubator and accelerator called the Beta Lab. And what are they doing there? They look for entrepreneurs and, looking for the Britons of the future. So people with good ideas, see if they can be incubated, accelerated, and possibly get some seed funding at that point. But again, it's a very rigorous vetting system, and there are others who are doing it well. There are other big corporates who are doing it as well. But that's...
I would say most incubators are a total waste of time. So don't if you're really wanting to build a business, come there if you have a good idea.
Exactly.
If you already have an idea and it's working and you want some catalytic growth. But at the early stages, if you just have an idea, just do something, right? Ideas are so cheap. Everyone has an idea. The difference between a successful entrepreneur and everybody else is they actually tried.
The one who acted on the idea.
They actually tried, right?
All right?
They put their money where their mouth is. They put their time where their mouth is, and they gave it a go. And you're going to fail sometimes, but I mean, this is my 5th business, and this is the one that's working really well.
There you go.
Right. So I'm not talking to you about all the other things that didn't go well. This one is working very well, and it's going to produce a great return.
And something Ted isn't saying is you were featured by the former US President Obama. Yourself and a few others were called in for this innovative model. So you keep trying, you get it right at some point.
You get it right.
Yeah.
So bird's eye view, George, of the continent. Maybe you talk about different regions. You look at, Francophone Africa, West Africa, Anglophone West Africa, of course, then other parts of East Africa into Southern Africa. Do a bird's eye view, and would you say that the businesses that EIB through Africa Invest then has supported are answering questions, or are they offering solutions towards society issues that then have been able to get the funding, and are those thriving businesses today?
I think the answer to the last question first, are they all thriving businesses today? No.
Okay.
Because some will fail. But a good number, majority, because not all our investments come through the VC fund. Some of them come from the more mature private equity or our evergreen permanent capital vehicle or our European venture capital, our European private equity strategy. We've got
this guy's so hard on the VC fund. The VC fund is doing very well.
It's actually doing very well. But just to answer your question, yes, they're answering real...